Yeah.
Nice.
What's up? All right,
How's
we're
it going?
live. Nobody's here yet. That's great because I need to figure out if we're on the right channel. Let's make sure. Let's switch accounts. Switch this. Go there. Click that. It's not doing it.
Okay.
Here we go. Live. I think it's working.
Nice.
I think we're live.
Cool.
I think.
Is it live
Could
or
be.
is it
Let me
Memorex?
try this again. Wait. What a way to start.
So what's new,
A
man?
bunch of silence. So I want to know if you have ulcerative colitis and you're in an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean you have to like
Get to board first.
go? Hold on, I want to make sure this is live. I want to make sure. Oh yes, it's happening. It's happening.
Nice. I like when it's happening.
I don't hear any sound though. Oh, I know why. Man, I'm pressing some buttons today. What the frick's going on here?
Just gotta get it dialed
I
in.
guess. There it is. Ah,
There you go.
there he is. Hey, we're going to start
Nice.
this off. So we put it out there today. We asked everybody what their urban legends or I don't know what that was. Let
Yeah,
me-
local urban legends or mysteries.
Yes.
What was the other category you had?
Let me put it up here.
Yeah.
All right. What urban legend, ghost story, local mystery have you always wanted to know more about? One guy asked about the Whitty House, which is a local thing to us. And then someone said flat earthers. Someone brought up Bell Gunnis. I think that was over on Instagram. Let me pull that one up too. We're
Yeah.
going to look it all up tonight.
Jack the Ripper.
Yeah. Jack the Ripper. Oh, Sam Squanch, Sasquatch. We could talk about a lot of stuff here.
Sure.
Where else did I get all of those other responses? Here it is. Okay, so we got Bell Gunnis. Jay says there was supposed to be a movie that Michael Bernacchi was working on called The Farm, but COVID hindered production and it may have been scrapped or put on hold.
Yeah, I've heard a couple different movies were supposed to be made about. I think there was one, or at least a trailer out and about that I seen.
Jack the Ripper comes up. Someone here says, all right, I grew up closer to Chesterton, Indiana, near the dunes. So definitely Diana of the Dunes. I've never heard of that. Or maybe I have and just don't remember. We used to camp out there as kids, and about the only way the parents kept us close to the camper at night was to say, what if you find Diana? Well, maybe that,
I've heard the name, but I couldn't tell you what the lore is. I would imagine some young girl got she drowned in Lake Michigan, and now she haunts people.
And then my cousin that lives out near D.C. says Bunny Man Bridge. So that could be West Virginia. That could be Virginia. That could be D.C. area. We're going to look it up and talk about it. But first, we need a cocktail. So let me grab a cocktail.
Cocktail time. What are we making today?
I don't know. You wanted a sipper because you don't like the sweet stuff so much.
Yeah.
I'll just give you a little sample. I'm going to pour it on thick.
Yeah. A little taste. What are you mixing up? I'll narrate. Okay, a little rum, like Captain Morgan's rum, spiced rum, or whatever your favorite spiced rum. And then you got Jim Beam pineapple. Nice. Not a sponsor yet, by the way, but you never know. And then your mixer. All right, 0 sugar Sprite mixed in. Is this supposed to taste like cotton candy or something like that, or is this just or just whiskey and Sprite? Okay, all right. I like pineapple. I like pineapple. Yeah, grab me a chaser too, would you? Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what everybody comes up with for their local, gracias, their local urban legend. Do you have one that you're gonna talk about? Favorite?
I mean,
favorite
I've
for
always
around
been
here?
I've always been curious about
Cheers.
oh yeah, let's do that. Cheers. Ooh, let me pull up I'm missing the
Yeah.
chats.
It's good.
Martini. Jim Beam Peach with Coke or Dr. Pepper. Nice. I was over on the Rebels chat. I told Rolando to hook us up, so maybe he will, maybe he won't. It's okay either way. I've always thought about the Belgunnis stuff. I've always liked those mysteries where it's kind of easy to figure them out, why they happen, but it's more interesting to see how it went down.
The details.
Like even back in those days, or what was that, early 1900s?
Yeah.
She
100
was
years ago.
She was doing stuff for
basically.
insurance payouts back then.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very interesting thing to think about how all that was already going then.
Yeah, that's local to our town, our city. And I used to go to the museum in town, and they had a display, a Belgunnis display.
right.
And they had a little hatchet with some blood on it, and maybe like a bloody stone over here, and she was like baling hay.
Let's
or
throw
something.
on the readers and let's do
Yeah.
a little quick read on her. Belgunnis, American serial killer,
Yep.
born November 11th. Ooh, a day after me. 1859 in Selbu, Norway. I did not know that. I'm learning stuff today. I love
Okay.
it. Died on April 28th in 1908, right here in LaPorte, Indiana. So her nickname was Hell's Bell. She was a Norwegian American serial killer who was active in Illinois and Indiana between 1884 and 1908.
Okay.
So this
Even
goes
longer
back.
ago.
This
120 years.
this dials right in with our Indiana serial killers. Like
Right.
we like to stay local to things.
Yep.
So it says here, let's go. It's believed she was to have killed at least 14 people, most of whom were men she enticed to visit her rural Indiana property through personal advertisements.
Uh-huh.
Well, they had Craigslist back then. Some
Yeah.
sources speculate her involvement in as many as 40 murders, making her one of the most prolific female serial killers in history. She seemingly died in a fire in 1908, but it's unconfirmed.
Can I throw us a little side
she
note
still
in
be out
there,
there?
just about that correspondence? Can you imagine back in the day, it was like, an ad in a newspaper or some
Right.
sort of, but we're talking late 1800s. So you had to
Right.
mail it and wait for that publication to come out and see somebody's address, write them back. I mean, that was long distance dating back in the day,
Right. And I mean, what kind of reach could you get? So maybe she was using the newspapers or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Personal ads, classifieds. Wow.
So it says here in 1884, she married Mads Sorensen. The couple owned a candy store, which later burned to the ground. Their home also burned down,
Premonition, huh?
and both granted the couple insurance payouts. 2 babies in the home died. Oh, wait a minute. This is jumping around. 2 babies in the Gunnis home died from inflammation of the large intestine. And of course, she had insurance on both children.
Of course.
Collected a large insurance check after each death. Neighbors began to gossip about the babies since Gunnis never appeared to be pregnant. See what I mean?
That's interesting.
She's stealing kids too and insuring them. Back then, you could get away with that. There was no door cams.
When did
There's no ring chimes watching you at the hospital, hallway cameras and all that,
right? When did life insurance start? Because that surprises me that
It was going good
way
by
back
then. They must
that
have been making
you
out
can
on
insure
policies.
when kids died all the time because it was the 1800s, right?
It says here, July 30th, 1900, both policies were active at the same time. As one would expire, the other would enter into force.
Yeah, I'll have to do a little research on
Her husband died of cerebral hemorrhage on the day that the insurance kicked back in.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Gunnis explained he had come home with a headache, and she provided him with a powder for the pain. She later checked on him, and he was dead.
Headache powder.
She collected money from both the expiring life insurance policy and the one that went into effect that day, making a total of $5,000. With the insurance money, she moved to LaPorte, Indiana, and bought a pig farm.
That was probably 100,000 in today's
Well,
dollars.
I'd say
at least.
more than that at 1900 to
Yeah.
2025.
Could be
250.
250,000.
Dude, she could probably get a wagon for like $8 back then. And a couple horses for like $20.
Sure.
$30.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Put a 20 down,
It'd
dude.
be $500,000 now, huh?
She probably bought that farm and probably still had $1,000 left over. Then she married Peter Gunnis, April of 1902. The following week, while he was out of the house, his infant daughter died of unknown causes while in Bell's care. Peter died 8 months later due to a skull injury.
Wonder how
Imagine
that happened.
that. Bell explained that Peter reached for something on a high shelf and a meat grinder fell on him, smashing his skull. The coroner convened. The coroner's jury suspected murder, but nothing came of the case. Bell collected $3,000 insurance money. Then their disappearances started. She began placing marriage ads in Chicago newspapers around 1905. One of her ads was answered by a Wisconsin farmhand, Mr. Henry Gerholt. He came over here. He wrote his family saying he liked the farm. Everything was good, and requested that they send him seed potatoes. When they failed to hear from him after that, the family contacted her. She said that he had gone off with horse traders to Chicago, but she kept his trunk and fur overcoat. I wonder what was in that trunk.
Yeah.
After him, John Moe of Minnesota answered one of her ads in 1906. So this is another year later. Well, she was running right through him. They corresponded for several months. He traveled to LaPorte, withdrew a large amount of cash. Although no one ever saw him again, a carpenter who did occasional work for her observed that his trunk remained at her house, along with more than a dozen others. Why you got all these trunks, lady? Stay away from my trunks, boy.
Yeah.
Don't go near my trunks. Her criminal activities came to light in 1908 when the farmhouse she lived in burned to the ground, and in the ruins, authorities found the bodies of a headless adult woman, initially identified as her and her 3 children, but upon further investigation, found partial remains of at least 11 additional people. After the fire at the homestead led to the discovery of the bodies believed to be Gunnis and her children, LaPorte police authorities were contacted by Ezel Helgelin, who had found correspondence between his brother Andrew and her. The letters included petitions for him to relocate to Indiana and to bring money and to keep it a secret. A visit to the farm with a former hired hand led to attention being paid to soft depressions in what had been made into a pen for hogs. After briefly digging into one of these depressions, they found a gunny sack that contained 2 hands, 2 feet, and 1 head.
Ooh, gruesome.
Which Helgelin recognized to be his brother. Wow. They found all these slumped depressions. They found torsos, hands, arms, hacked from the shoulders down, masses of human bone wrapped in loose flesh that dripped like jelly from trash-covered depressions that proved to be graves. In each case, the body had been butchered in the same manner. The body was decapitated, the arms removed at the shoulders, and the legs severed at the knees. Blunt trauma and gashes characterized the skulls that were found that had been separated from the bodies. Man, she had a mean streak. And
you said that this was in the pig pen?
That's what they did. Apparently, she made shallow graves to bury the
Why
body
wouldn't you
parts.
just feed them to the pigs?
Maybe that's what was going on,
Yeah.
and it was stuff they didn't finish.
Right.
So she put it in a gunny sack and buried it in the pen.
Right. seems like if you left it out there, they'd clean that up. From what I hear,
They found parts of 5 bodies on the first day, an additional 6 on the second day. Some were in shallow graves under the original hog pen, and others were near an outhouse or a lake, and the police stopped counting. With these discoveries, the perceptions of Belle Gunness, in a desperate, they had first characterized her dying in a desperate attempt to save her children, but they reassessed her quickly. Despite the initial success with the identification of Andrew Helgelin, and despite the fact that the widening news coverage of the mass murders invited inquiries from families with men that had gone missing, most of the remains could not be identified because,
Right.
technology just wasn't there.
Sure. If you didn't have a picture or a face to match it up with or some identifying mark.
So there's a theory that she had to have an accomplice. Somebody had to do the work, like if she's that
A helping hand
yeah,
or farm
and
hand or something.
if she's that much of a psychopath, sociopath, I mean, she's about the money, she's about the power, the control. So there's a theory that she had a farmhand and an on and off lover named Ray Lamphere, and they think that he must have helped her out in hopes of gaining her affection.
Sure. I think, and she would lure them, the suitors in, and have them bring, basically all their worldly possessions, all the money they had or property they had, and promise them a life here, but they needed a little help. I've got these kids and we're struggling, but I'll be your wife and bring all your stuff. And then she'd kill them and keep their stuff, the trunks.
So at the end of the year in 1908, when they got this Ray Lamphere, they kind of put together a connection, and they ended up convicting him of arson, which I would think nowadays they'd probably get him for a whole lot more, like accessory to murder, all kinds of charges,
Yeah.
But they got him for arson because he confessed that Gunness placed advertisements seeking male companionship only to murder and rob them, whoever responded and visited the farm. He said that she asked him to burn down the farm with her children inside. He said that the body thought to be hers was in fact one of the victims, chosen and planted to mislead investigators.
Yeah.
So that's where that theory comes that she
That seems
took off.
realistic.
The brother of one victim had warned Gunness that he might arrive at the farm shortly to investigate his brother's disappearance, is why she kicked this all into play. According to Lamphere, this impending visit is what motivated her to destroy her house and fake her death and flee. When he was arrested, he was wearing John Moe's overcoat and Henry Gerholt's watch. Yikes.
Where did he get that?
So for all we know, she went on. There's theories. I'm not going to continue reading all of this, but there's theories that she continued doing this.
Yeah,
in other
faked
places.
her death and escaped and went on
Yeah.
to another spot.
Let me say cheers to a couple guys in the chat here. We got
Yeah.
Justin's here. What's up? Ricardo's here. What's up, my man? What's going on? Jim P. Hold on. Let me read these drink recipes we got flowing.
Yeah,
here.
welcome, guys.
My chat's moving around. Jim Beam, Peach and Coke, and Dr. Pepper.
Sounds all right.
So it's Wednesday night is actually my Thursday because I'm off Friday. Good Friday.
There you go.
How you like them potatoes? We haven't been live for a while. We finally got some headway on the room, so things will be moving around here shortly. But
Coming
that first
together.
one, so we had Belle Gunness,
Yeah.
and then let's move on. Oh, I had another person drop a huge UFO theory that kind of blew my mind that I wanted to just read.
Okay.
It'll take a minute, but we'll come back to it.
All right.
It was pretty wild. Let's see. The Virginia Giant. All right.
Yeah.
I'm game.
Let's go.
Let's look it up. Here we go. The Virginia Giant. All right. I like this. The Virginia Giant. Ooh, the Virginia Giant monster truck? No, I don't think that's what we're talking about.
Not
Virginia
the
Giant.
monster truck.
Okay, throw the glasses back on. Here we go. That's saying monster truck. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I think we're on to something.
Right.
Nope. That's not it.
We'll circle back to that.
We'll have to
Have
come
them
back to that
clarify-
one because I'm fine. It keeps giving me monster truck.
Have
How
them
about-
clarify what
How about Urban
what
Legend,
angle they're going at.
Legend of the. Hold on. Oh, okay. So the
What you
Virginia
got?
Giant, it's a nickname given to Peter Francisco, a Revolutionary War soldier known for his incredible size and strength. The exact details of his life and exploits are debated. He is widely remembered as a hero who single-handedly saved crucial moments in the war. Stories of his bravery, strength, and even superhuman feats have solidified his place in American folklore.
Okay.
Let's see.
The
My
Virginia
chat
Giant.
keeps jumping around. I'm not sure what's going on, but okay, here we go. Hey, there he is, Ricardo. We're doing good, brother. Okay, so Peter Francisco, Portuguese immigrant, joined the Virginia colonial militia after hearing Patrick Henry's "Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death" speech. He's described as 6.5 feet tall, 260 pounds, and incredibly strong. It
I
says
guess was
that
a
he
giant for the day.
like he lifted a cannon, and some believed he could lift a man in each arm. He was a one-man army. That's what I got here. The Virginia Giant, the true story of Peter Francisco. I don't have a lot of detail here. Nowadays with Google, it gives you an AI overview, which is kind of cool. Pulls
None
from
of
several
the
different
exploits.
articles. It just says he had a role where he participated in several key battles at Brandywine, Stony Point, Camden, the Guilford Courthouse, where he reportedly demonstrated exceptional courage and strength. Rescued a cannon from falling into enemy hands at the Battle of Camden. I guess there's a video of this, like a documentary on YouTube, it says. And
It was certainly not a video of that.
no.
the
Apparently-
actual exploits, but
Apparently, George
tells the
Washington
story.
George Washington had been quoted stating, "Without him, we would have lost two crucial battles, perhaps the war, and with it our freedom."
Well, thanks to him.
Truly a one-man army. Yeah. Speaking of immigrants, so I did the ancestry DNA.
Yeah.
I found out some things.
Okay. What do you got?
Well, I think it's my dad's branch, so I haven't explored more of it. It's where's it at? I'll read it off to you. I'll just jump off course here for a second.
It's all right.
I'll jump
come
off
back to
course. It's interesting. All right. 59% England, 18% German. So that's my mom. So the England was my dad, German was my mom. 7% Scotland, my dad. 4% Norway, I think would have been my mom. 4% Wales would have been my dad. 4% Ireland, I think would have been my dad. 2% Netherlands and 2% Ashkenazi Jew.
Huh.
I'm Jewish.
There you go.
I'm Jewish. I don't know. I need to go learn some Yiddish. Nothing from North America because we have Indians in our family. So my great grandmother was like 104. So what I've surmised there is somebody came from England and didn't have children with her. They must have married her mother and she was the child and then became then we became descendants of the mixed family. So I need to
Right.
find that little branch because she could have been like my grandmother's stepmother, or my great grandmother's stepmother. You
Right,
know what I mean?
right.
Something like that. And I'm like, oh, okay. We always thought she was an Indian, had our grandma. No. So we're thinking maybe she was a stepmother. And I was
Gotcha,
like, okay, that makes
gotcha.
more sense. That kind of puts it together. Okay. Back on track.
Urban legends.
Urban legends. That's my urban legend. I'm Jewish. Okay.
Mazel tov.
Diana of the Dunes. I'm curious about this one.
I've heard the name. I can surmise what it's about, but
If you
I
go
don't
to
remember the story.
if you go to Google Maps or Google Earth and you punch in Indiana Dunes National Lake Shore,
Right.
right along Lake Michigan, that's where we're from, and there are quite a few stories from the area and things.
Mm-hmm.
But this one,
Famous shipwrecks, a lot
yeah.
of those. Yeah.
There's a big so the guys that do Oak Island, they're trying to find the treasure.
Mm-hmm.
They had another spin-off show where they were helping other guys on treasure hunts, and one of the guys said during the Civil War there was a heist on Lake Michigan where they took a train car full of gold.
Mm.
When they got it out off of the shore, they swapped out what was inside of it with painted bricks and took the gold, and all of a sudden there was a guy who hadn't had shit. All of a sudden he's building a whole town, and they found painted bricks on this show. Then they found this town, and they found there's a statue tribute to the guy in the middle of the town.
Mm-hmm.
And there's these sidewalks that go off like a star pattern. Underneath each one, they used penetrating radar, had a tunnel under each one. So his house where he lived went straight to the bank. And in the bank, there was a vault wall. And on the other side of the vault wall was all these, what do you call them, safe deposit boxes and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And so they were like, okay. So they found out later that these guys were all working together, and they had stuff by wagon going down this trail. And when it came to a fork in the road, that's when guys kind of said, okay, you go this way. We'll take it from here, kind of wink, wink.
Mm-hmm.
And they took the gold, because somebody found out they had the gold. We want that gold back.
Right.
And these guys had it all worked out. So it's a Civil War era heist. That's a good one. But
Yeah.
Diana of the Dunes. Anyway, that started all on Lake Michigan here. So let's say, let's see, overview here. Diana of the Dunes was the nickname given to Alice Mabel Gray. She lived 1881 to 1925, so she was around the Belle Gunness era.
Right.
An American intellectual and counterculture figure whose life inspired a local legend in Chesterton, Indiana. She lived in the primitive conditions among the sand dunes and became interested in the history, ecology, and the need to preserve the dunes. Trained in mathematics, astronomy, and classical languages at the University of Chicago in the early 1900s, she rejected a wage-earning urban life in favor of a solitary existence at the dunes. Her unconventional lifestyle fascinated the general public, and area news reporters gave her the Diana moniker as the dunes became threatened by encroaching real estate development. Her notoriety and the Diana legend brought media attention to the dunes at an important time when the local community's support was critical in helping to establish the area as a nature preserve that became the Indiana Dunes State Park, later the Indiana Dunes National Park. So I guess that would be the thing where she was maybe busting up maybe her own one-person protest when they were trying to build stuff or, come through.
So that not at all what I thought it was.
Me neither.
I thought there was
Me neither.
a legend of a
So that was kind of the
ghost
thing,
or
because
or
she was
urban legend.
She lived out there. She'd be
Yeah.
watching, or she'd come get you, or something like that.
Or yeah, I was thinking somebody drowned in the lake and then they come back to watch over or protect. But no, this sounds just like
she was a graduate student for 9 years. She frequently visited the dunes and came to love the area's natural beauty. Land developers viewed the area as a wasteland and prime location for industrial development. But the resulting urbanization caused the destruction of the area's natural habitat. So I want to know where she came into play here. Later year. Oh, Death and Legacy. Okay.
Okay.
I'm getting. Yes. Okay. Okay, let's see. So in early 25, she fell ill from uremia, which is kidney failure, but refused hospitalization. She died at Ogden Dunes of uremic poisoning. She was buried at Oak Lawn Cemetery in Gary. It's not known if she ever married because no marriage certificate has been found, but her gravestone reads Alice Gray Wilson, so she had a different name than her born name. Details of her life was that she was unconventional, free-spirited. Stories from local residents have often been exaggerated, contradictory, or potentially false and subject to debate. The effect of the accounts only contribute to her notoriety and the legend of Diana of the Dunes. It's alleged that it's a ghost that haunts the parks
Okay.
and the shore. Okay. So if you're out on the beach at night and you see a
she
ghost,
wanted to preserve that, and so she's there to scare you off of it.
Yeah. So like she was just, she's there, she's part of it. Sort of
Maybe
like the
maybe
good
she's there to do good.
Mother Nature, the good witch or
Enjoy
something.
what I
Yeah.
enjoy. Come on.
That's right. Come in the woods. I'm naked. We have some
Well,
really good mushrooms.
yeah. Well, good. That's a
All right, so I get it though. Like
local
so the person that
local
commented
legend.
said her parents told her about Diana of the Dunes. Don't go
Yeah.
out there.
Right.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense why that
Sure.
would
And
get
then
used
the
like
whole myth behind it became bigger than what the real life story was.
that. Yeah. All right. What was the other one here? So the other one was the Whitty house. Let's look this up. So that happened before I thought. I thought it was around the time I was in junior high, but it's actually between 1980 and 1984. So let's
Okay.
see. Okay. So
I've never heard of it.
the Whitty murders in Michigan City, Indiana. The basic gist of it was about insurance. Let's see. Let's go. Okay. So 15-year-old Eric Whitty shot his father, 43-year-old volunteer firefighter Paul Whitty. Now, let me just preface this by saying nothing that I'm reading or discussing here tonight is being said as fact. I'm just reading what I'm seeing and taking it based on the comments that people like you, the loyal listeners, have left. So I don't want anybody thinking like I'm speaking like this is the what happened and what went down. This is all alleged, and we're just having a good time, kind of going through stuff. And a lot of this is our local urban legends and lore and things too. So
Right.
I'm just going by this. This is history.com. There was stuff in the Tribune. I think what happened was a lot of it was unproven until later, and there was a civil suit, and that's where, similar to O.J. Simpson's, like there's so much proof that you did it, but that one piece of what do they call that? Where you can't get the benefit of the doubt out of it. It's still there. Reasonable doubt is still there, so
Right.
you're innocent. But I can sue you for cause.
Sure.
You caused this to happen through your actions. And I think what happened was there was some things admitted later on. So this is kind of the prequel to that. So the 15-year-old Eric Whitty shoots his father, 43, a volunteer firefighter, Paul Whitty, in the family's Indiana home. Eric admitted to shooting his father, but claimed the gun accidentally went off when he tripped on a rug. The bullet hit his father, who was laying on a couch across the room, in the head. The shooting was ruled an accident, and he was released. So he was 15,
Right.
3 years later, Eric's grandmother, Elaine, age 74, was killed with a crossbow. A few months after the murder, the entire family was arrested in California for forging Elaine's signature on her Social Security checks. So there was a trial. The trial became a bizarre, crazy, undertaking. And then the story came to light about this. So Eric's mother, Hilma Marie, had tried to kill her husband Paul by lacing his food with rat poison and Valium. When this was unsuccessful, she convinced her son to shoot his father by telling him that Paul was going to divorce her and they would end up living in the streets. She later persuaded John Butch Whitty, Eric's younger brother, to kill his grandmother by convincing him that the grandmother, Elaine, planned to kick them out of the house. So John, who witnessed his father's murder at the age of 11, was 14 when he killed Elaine. At the trial, John stated, "My mom said I could strangle her or use my crossbow. It was up to me." That's quote, unquote.
Huh.
A few hours after killing his grandmother, John went to court with his mother to inquire about receiving disability benefits from his father's death. When they returned home that night, they began cutting up Elaine's body with a knife and a chainsaw. Marie and her two boys then scattered the dismembered body throughout California. John and Eric were given 20 and 5-year sentences respectively and were released in 1996. Hilma, their mom, received a 90-year sentence.
Wow.
So the dad was killed at the house here in Indiana. It sounds like the grandmother was killed out in California, apparently.
Yeah.
Or they left. What did it say? Did it say that they left? Father murder. A few hours after killing his grandmother. Because it says 3 years later, Eric's grandmother was killed with a crossbow. A few months after the murder, the entire family was arrested in California. So the three of them must have gone to
They
California.
killed here, but
Yeah.
they fled.
So
there,
the home is in what's called Trail Creek. There's a large piece of art in the front yard now, and there's people living there now. So I don't know. I remember it being talked about when we were kids, like around junior high age, but you know, I'm just hearing what other people are saying, and I don't really remember like details like this.
Right.
But it's pretty wild. I remember there was like rumors and stuff of different things happening. Obviously, nobody knew what they were talking about, but
There's always going to be wild speculation. This side, back and forth, upside down. So many theories, and then you got to rule them out. What's the facts? Was that case ever solved, or is there still
that was later on
ongoing-
in the trial.
Mhm.
They went back for a couple trials, and that's when all of it came out. Basically, it's like I think the kids turned on the mom, but then they all went to prison anyway. I remember hearing about the shooting. I remember hearing about the crossbow. I remember hearing about California, but
is there controversy about those convictions and sentences?
I don't think so. It's just that the fact that it was a very small town, and it's like the mom manipulating the kids, what's going on with the kids, that they would go through with it. But it's like, if you think back to 1981, 1980, the fear of being told you're going to be put in foster care or out on the street, very, very convincing and real.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sad that someone would do that to their child.
They're
But
so impressionable.
Just
at
like
that age.
just like Manson or anybody else that kind of lorded over people to do their bidding or whatever. It's like you're just as guilty. You may as well have done it yourself. It's just sad that you had to get an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old involved.
Yeah. Yeah, if you got that fear that you're going to lose what life you have, as good or bad as it is, then you're going to be on the street struggling.
Right.
And you're a kid. I mean, you don't form those thoughts on your own. Typically, you got somebody that's pressuring you into it, an authority figure, a parent, somebody, but yeah.
So we had the Whitty House, we had Diana of the Dunes, we had the Virginia Giant, Belle Gunness.
You mentioned Jack the Ripper, which
Jack the Ripper
across the pond, but
Bigfoot, Jack the Ripper, Bigfoot, and Flat Earthers.
Okay.
Take your pick.
Well,
I know we can talk about the Bigfoot for a second, because over on John's podcast stream show on Super Awesome Science, he had one of the guys that had been on one of the shows on like Discovery or something like that. And the guy still very much believes that there is proof that they exist, and he's going every day to collect these things and samples and all this. My theory was always that throughout history, animals go extinct. Animals are in different places than they should be on Earth because of what you expect because of habitat. And I feel like that there had been apes here at one time, maybe before the continents moved around, tectonic plates shifted, maybe before the Younger Dryas.
You're talking in the Americas.
In the Americas,
in
yep.
North America.
Yeah. And I feel like
specifically
you had where it's like a white tiger type thing where it's dying out and it's very rarely going to be seen. When it is seen, it's very fearful. It's going to run. It's not going to stick around. You're going to see things, hear things. And then that tale of that sighting will just continue to pass on generation to generation, person to person. It grows in lore and things. So I've always believed that it was a North American silverback and bipedal, an ape or ape family, ape-like.
Yeah.
this guy seemed to confirm that there's ape, believe that it's ape DNA and things like that. So after that, I don't have much water in the glass for it, because I don't have any experience of a sighting, or I've seen some things that are otherworldly in my opinion that could have been for other reasons or whatever, that don't to me correlate with a Bigfoot, because everybody can say they saw a Bigfoot here, saw a Bigfoot there. I'm like, well, how the heck can this thing get around? So I can't discredit it altogether, but I can say that from what I've seen, I believe that there probably was just the last remnants of a species that died out. And because you would just think in rational terms, you would think you'd put it in a box and say, where's a skeleton, where's remains, where's scat, where's waste, right? So like a deer, an elephant, et cetera, like animals leave things around that you can say, okay, that's what that is.
Right.
We're not seeing that. And if we are, like, well, where is it? Right. So there's people that claim they have it. So I don't know. I mean, I just think it's something that happened, and we're continuing I think people want it to be real so bad that
I think it's a fascinating story. It's interesting. Do I think there's a real Bigfoot walking around, or there can't just be one,
right,
unless it's the last one, but there has to be a family of these, or a community of these, so they can have, offspring. And I just think there would be more than a few grainy images or photos or videos, and there would be a little more significant proof.
That falls into UFOs, where does no one have a good camera when this happens, right?
It's like the 7-Eleven that gets robbed. It's like you got a security camera, but you can't make out any detail. Why? Why have it then? It's everything you see. It's just enough to go, okay, it's a fun story. I'll entertain it. I can't rule it out 100%, but
I always try to put things, it's just me. I put things in a box that makes sense to me and rationale. Otherwise, my brain would explode, So I think that, there probably was something. I can't say it's a Bigfoot, because it obviously, I guess if that's the genus or the name or whatever scientifically we're calling it, then that's what it is. But
something between
to me,
human.
It does make sense that there was a species that went extinct, and there were a last few remnants still wandering around the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest specifically, and they're gone now.
But so the thing about Bigfoot is it's very human-like, right? So if you're thinking it's the North American silverback, or
if you consider 8 feet tall and ape-like features human,
but more than you'd see a silverback gorilla now, it would be somewhere between that and a regular Homo sapien, right? Isn't that what this?
Well, like you
Sasquatch
have gorillas, and then you have orangutans, you have baboons. They're all in the same sort of, I don't know what the word is, the category of ape, but they're all distinctly different from each other with their character, their builds, their frames. So I think that's what, when I say North American silverback, a very different form, just like those.
But is the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever name you want to call it, is it supposed to be more of a human-like creature? Like somehow there's human DNA, there's like,
I don't know about that part,
like, or a transitionary animal between an ape, or is it just supposed to be a extinct or almost extinct, like the woolly mammoth or saber-tooth tiger? Okay,
because it makes sense,
like its own animal.
Because that to me is
the
very
lost link.
That to me is believable. Like we talked about the wolves' DNA being brought back, and the woolly mammoth they're working on, and things like that. Like, there's proof out there that they've found for like a pterodactyl, different dinosaurs and things. Where's the Bigfoot stuff? And I think they found some things, but they can't say definitively that's the Bigfoot we're looking for.
Right.
It's like, well, if you can go out in the desert and you can find a skeleton of a whale that, because of a great flood or whatever, then I think you would find one of this genus of ape. So I don't know. That's kind of the box I put it in.
Yeah.
To say that it's out there now, I can't, because I don't have an experience of me seeing it. But I'm not going to call somebody out a liar, because maybe wherever they're at, they saw something that proves otherwise.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Can't rule it out.
No.
But
it brought up a funny thing where you say, when people have the cameras, like, why is it that your camera suddenly doesn't work? Does this thing have the ability to like cast a spell on your camera? But so this is what a guy said, because like my belief on UFOs is that the military has been experimenting on experimental aircraft, especially supersonic high speed, and they have, at one point in time, and it could have been as long ago as the 1940s, broken some barrier that they didn't realize they could break. They ended up somewhere they didn't know they could go. They found a way back, but there's the theory that if you can travel at the speed of light and you go 5 light years and you come back to Earth, you're a day older, but everybody's 25 years older. To me, it's that theory in reverse. They've gone that distance and come back, and now they're this shriveled up little gray man who's lost his ability to speak and communicate normally. And we have only aged a decade or two. And that's what I think about UFOs. That's what I think about little gray men, is they are us, and they are from different countries, because everybody at one time or another has tried these things with technology. And so it's messed with time continuum. And when they've come back, so the current people here now are either secretly working on these things and don't realize this has already happened, or they have no knowledge at all that this came about ahead of time and they've accidentally passed it and come back here. That's my theory on UFOs. As fucked up as that is. So here's
all right,
because
all
it
right.
involves a little bit of time travel, and it involves a little, because again, it makes sense. If you take that curve and you go straight and then you dip through the thing and you come back, you done fucked up, son. You green now. All right. So this guy says today, this is a little bit of a read, but it kind of brings me to it. What if UFOs are not just flying through space, but they're moving through time? I don't mean time travel like in the movies. I mean something simpler yet weirder. We live in the third dimension. We move around in space, forward, backward, left, right, up, down. But there's also a fourth dimension, and that's space-time. We only move one way through time, forward. We remember the past. We experience the present. We guess about the future. We're stuck to time like a train stuck on its track. But an interdimensional being would not be stuck, especially if they operated outside of space-time. To them, time wouldn't feel like a line. It would be like a place they can go. Imagine if you could stand above your own life and look down. You could see your birth today. You could see your birth today and your death all at once. You could jump to any moment instantly, because to you, every moment is happening at the same time. Now, imagine something that can do that showing up in our world. That brings me to the 2004 Nimitz incident, where Navy pilot Commander David Fravor saw a tic-tac shaped object off the coast of California. It moved with no wings, no visible engines, and flew in ways that made no sense, like dropping thousands of feet in seconds and then disappeared. Minutes later, radar shows it 60 miles away, already waiting at the exact spot Fravor's team was heading to next.
Yep.
That spot
Point.
that spot wasn't public. It wasn't communicated, but the object was already there. It didn't follow them. It didn't race them. It just appeared like it already knew the future, because maybe it did. If these things are interdimensional and exist outside the boundaries of space-time, they don't need to chase or track us. They can move to any moment in time the same way we move to a new place. So while we are still on our way, they are already there. Not because they're fast, not because they're stuck in time like we are, but because they're not stuck in time like we are. They see time the way we see space. They don't experience it second by second. They can just go to the moment they want, past, present, or future. Maybe the 2023 Tic Tacs are the same ones from 2004, just jumping through points in time.
Wow.
Interesting. So that could explain a lot. Why they seem to disappear and reappear, why they show up across decades looking exactly the same, why they always seem one step ahead. Perhaps they're not aliens from a faraway planet. They might be interdimensional beings who exist outside our concept of space-time. So when people say they might be interdimensional, this could be what they actually mean. They're not from somewhere else, they're from someone else. And this guy goes on, he says, why this is somber. If this is true, if there are beings watching us from outside time, we are not in control. We are not at the top of the intelligence ladder. We may not even fully understand what we are yet. They could see all of human history the way that you and I look at a painting. Every war, every birth, every collapse, every achievement, all at once. They might not be here to attack or save us. They might just be watching, maybe guiding, maybe nudging, maybe doing something we don't even have words for yet. That's why people like Lou Elizondo describe the truth as somber, because it forces us to face something bigger than aliens. It forces us to rethink our place in reality itself. And deep down, I think we've always known something was just off. Now we might finally be starting to understand why.
Yeah.
This is,
There you
again, that is why I think it's us. I don't think it's an interdimensional being. I think it's us breaking through some type of barrier somewhere, some along the way, can't figure out how to turn it on or off, or is playing with it, experimenting with it, and realizes the greater purpose is not to harm or help. Let it happen. Let it be what it is. It's nature. It has its course, the course you stay on, right? So when I said, like, I think like most of the incidents that we always rely on, we always go back to in the 1940s, it was the military found this thing. I'm like, yeah, because they talk about Area 51, because that's where they were testing these rockets and testing these ships and these things way out away from everybody, out in the desert. Nighttime, it's nice and cool.
Yeah.
Daytime, it's too hot. You'll overheat. You'll break stuff. Accidents happen. They need lights. People see the lights. If you're at a certain vantage point from something, looking from above, looking down, and it's hot, and you see the sort of heat waves, it can bend light a little bit.
Right.
There could be something there with space travel. I don't want to say time travel. I want to say space, because you're covering a space, not a time.
Mm-hmm.
That we get hung up on that. So then it goes to my theories about what I always say about the hive mind. Like, we have this sort of ESP abilities with our gut, this intuition that's built into us that we don't understand.
Yeah.
We don't get. You're talking about the kids with autism reading thoughts from people they're connected to. Doesn't necessarily have to be a genetic attachment. It could just be an emotional attachment. Once they've made it, they're locked in, and they see what you're reading, and they know what you're, it's 12 cents, Dad. What?
Right.
You're looking at the electric bill or whatever,
Yeah.
I just think we are on the cusp of an understanding of the human being that we are. We have some abilities that we haven't quite figured out and mastered yet.
Well, that's for sure.
And it comes with sort of mind control, mind power. When I say mind control, I don't mean controlling someone else. I mean like your own, like,
Yeah.
and it doesn't necessarily mean I can look at something and just make it move, like the Force or whatever. I mean, it's like, it's the ability,
focusing yourself and being able to control your thoughts and
yes,
meditate,
and then that would in turn coincide with this sort of thought of time travel that, like I've said before, you can go back in time right now. Just lay down and relax and think of your memory,
sure.
and you can go right back there. what's to say you're not actually there? Maybe there's a confine that you're restricted by within your own self that says, well, I know or I believe this is what happened, A, B, and C, right?
Yeah.
So anytime you go back there, you can only perform A, B, and C. That's what happened. I got the black eye at the end or whatever, right? Or you say, I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna punch that guy or whatever, right? And it's like, what if there was a way to really do that though?
Yeah.
Like channels of a TV in your mind, different places, different realities, different layers of existence, dimensions. I guess you could change the channel. You know, it would be too much for us to believe any of that was possible. It would blow our minds literally, right?
Yeah. It's a little out there, but
I love being out there, dude.
if there's infinity amount of stars and universes and realities, or everything that could have happened has happened or is happening.
Justin
The
says,
multiverse.
Justin says, like, people think dreams are past lives lived, and we've talked about if you could get the information of a dream and play it back.
They're so disjointed sometimes, though.
Right.
Like
I think the trouble is that your mind can probably see all these different things at once.
Mm-hmm.
And we can only disseminate like on the frontal lobe one at a time, two at a time, maybe,
decipher what it
scientists,
is.
he says here, scientists have said we only use 35% of the brain's capability and capacity. Right. Because how would you begin to express that verbally, that you're seeing 10 different channels, so to speak, at once?
Yeah.
And remember what I said too, like while we're having a conversation, if something's playing in the background, like a game,
you're absorbing that.
And your mind has to, maybe while you're sleeping, kind of go through that, like deal with it, It's like stress on your body without.
But sometimes it's either that night, or it could be something that happened a week or a month ago and that you're dreaming about. So
I thought that was interesting how that guy put it. That was pretty neat.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Nice philosophy. But the thing is, like, okay, well, how do you prove any of that out? Like, how can we experiment to go test it out? There's no technology. There's no way to do it. So it would have to be, it would have to be the what was the one you talk about?
The Neuralink.
The Neuralink or the precogs. It has to be the 10 nerds in a tank kind of thing.
Right.
Okay, so the one of the last ones anyway. Let me make sure there's no extras here while we're going. One of the last ones we got was Jack the Ripper and Flat Earth.
It's been a lot of talk about the flat Earth lately. People going to Antarctica and trying to film the sun, rotating, never below the horizon, and then saying that either proves or disproves the flat Earth theory. But
so, growing up, we heard a lot about Jack the Ripper. I know there was like movies, Jack the Ripper, and then that precedes, horror movies and different things.
Yeah. A lot of films about.
A lot of different theories. They found some DNA evidence. They did all this stuff. They theorized it was a mental patient. They theorized it was a cop. They theorized it was a doctor. The concentrations.
They had preserved DNA that they could test.
There was
100 years later.
Some theory about something. They made a term called Ripperology in the 1970s because so many different people trying to figure this out. Let's see here. Suspects proposed years after the murders could include virtually anyone.
Of course.
Anyone remotely connected.
What year was this again? Over in England, right?
This was, let me go back here. With the Vigilance Committee in the East End, this was 1888 through 1891.
Mm-hmm.
1888, 5 canonical.
In
So
Cheshire, England, or
the
somewhere.
East End.
East End. Okay.
Attacks ascribed to Jack the Ripper typically involved women working as prostitutes, lived in the slums of the East End. Their throats were cut prior to abdominal mutilation.
Gruesome stuff.
The removal of internal organs from at least 3 led speculation that their killer had some anatomical or surgical knowledge. But it's like the one guy that we read about that was from Indiana that moved to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
He always took the heads off. He always took the intestines out because it was like he had to get the sin out or something. It was more or less he had to get something out. It wasn't really so much about the anatomy
Or a trophy
or the
something,
trophy so
right.
much. Even he just said it's got to come out. It's got to come out. It's it was this sort of
Well, whatever makes you want to
need,
do that, you're not quite right.
rumors intensify. Scotland Yard, Jack the Ripper. People were writing letters in as a hoax, trying to say that they were the killer, and this goes on and on and on for years. I was trying to see if there was anything about. Okay, so this is in February of 2025. Jack the Ripper's identity revealed after DNA breakthrough, a historian claims. So again, I'm not claiming this is truth. This is just what it was claimed. The true identity of mythologized 19th century serial killer Jack the Ripper may have finally been solved 140 years later.
Wow.
Historian and author Russell Edwards said DNA found on a shawl recovered from the scene of one of the killer's slayings was tested, revealing the butcher was a 23-year-old Polish immigrant named Aaron Kosminski, who died in a mental institution in 1919. But, it could have just been a murder.
How did they match the shawl to that person?
You keep this shawl all these years. It could have just been the guy that killed the girl. Doesn't necessarily mean it was Jack the Ripper, right?
Yeah. And but how do you preserve both of those specimens for 100 years till they develop the technology to test it?
Right.
It seems odd, but okay.
So they claim they caught him.
Well,
I don't know. They claim it was him. I don't know how
catch him, but they.
I don't know how they
but
could.
they determined who it was.
I don't know how they could do that. Like you said, 100 years later, 140 years later.
It seems odd that they, if they didn't have that frozen or preserved in some way, that it would still be viable. But
right.
Even if you had the sample from the shawl of somebody that was killed, who do you match it to? They would have had to have some
right.
More than one
suspect
sample. Blood. It's not like
right.
they would take that as a sample back then because they wouldn't think that was anything, important.
Yeah. So let's
that's cool.
Let's finish it off with the flat Earth theory here.
Okay.
Now I'm just gonna say that I'm not a flat earther.
Yeah.
I don't believe that Earth
You're
is flat.
Globist?
I don't.
Is that what you're saying? You're a
bulbist,
globist?
A globist. Flat Earth is an archaic and scientifically disproven conception of the Earth's shape as a plane or disk. Many ancient cultures subscribe to a flat Earth cosmography, notably including the cosmology in the ancient Near East. The model has undergone a recent resurgence as a conspiracy theory. So let's see here. Many ancient cultures subscribe to it. Let's see here. There were maps drawn in 1893. This is pretty wild. Of course, the United States. I'm going to show it to the camera. Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. There's. Let me blow this up. 1893. It's funny that it all consists of just America. Let's see here. The map contains several references to biblical passages as well as various supposed refutations of the globe theory. Spherical Earth appeared in ancient Greek philosophy with Pythagoras. However, early Greek cosmological view of a flat Earth persisted among most pre-Socratics. 5th and 6th century BC. In the early 4th century, Plato wrote about a spherical Earth. By about 330 BC, his former student Aristotle had provided strong empirical evidence for a spherical Earth. Knowledge of the Earth's global shape gradually began to spread beyond the Hellenistic world. So, through study, Aristotle actually proved out that Earth was spherical.
Oh yeah, they knew.
That was 330 BC.
Yep, they knew thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
It's amazing they could figure that out, though.
It said that empirical evidence for a spherical Earth, the Earth's knowledge of the Earth's global shape gradually began to spread.
Of course, they were heretics for thinking that back then.
By the early period of the Christian Church, the spherical view was widely held, with some notable exceptions. In contrast, ancient Chinese scholars consistently described the Earth as flat, and this remained unchanged until their encounters with Jesuit missionaries in the 17th century. It is a historical myth that medieval Europeans generally thought the Earth was flat. This myth was created in the 17th century by Protestants who argued against Catholic teachings. Traditionalist Muslim scholars have maintained that the Earth is flat since the 9th century. It's pretty wild to think, too, like that far back in time, that it would be debated or brought up, because
Right.
I mean, you're born where you're born, and you just look around and think, well, this is it. And you talk about Earth. Well, what the hell is Earth?
Yeah.
What do you mean that's the planet? What the hell's a planet? Like,
How
you
do
wouldn't even know.
beyond? Yeah.
Like, how did all this stuff begin? And people just started naming stuff. Like Aristotle's like, we're going to call that the stars, the sky, and we're going to call that the Big Dipper, and and Orion, and all that different stuff.
For you to travel anywhere back then, I mean, you're going tens of miles, hundreds of miles, maybe, but
I remember when we were kids in the summertime, a bunch of us would stay out, and we'd be, it'd be on the during the week, it'd be after dark. We'd all be laying in somebody's driveway after we played chase or whatever, looking at the stars and see a shooting star or an airplane or whatever, and it had sort of a, like, the effect was like fisheye lens, almost like it went around you anyway. It didn't never look like you were just looking up at a flat thing. It seemed to be sort of rounded, so I just think in my head when I looked up, remembering all that, like, I don't ever feel like, if I'm looking out at something and I can continue to see more in front of me, I feel like it's dipping down. Like, do I fall off? Do I just whip right around the other side? I mean, how do they explain that?
yeah, if you're in a wide open space, it does seem to envelop you. Yeah, it's an interesting theory. It's fun. It's fascinating for me to think about. Okay, think it through, the flat Earth and where things would be located, but we were just always taught the globe round makes sense. Everything else around us is round that we can tell.
Or is that
in space?
Or is that the computer program?
Right. It could be
because we're in the Matrix.
The simulation. There's a glitch in the Matrix.
The thought of being in a simulation is just too. I think that's like too much. I short circuit. I short circuit at some point, and that's it, because
that's hard to comprehend. What throws me about that is, who's in control of the simulation? And if you're projecting your own, why would anybody have such a bad time at life or bad circumstances?
Yeah.
Who's simulating all that horrible stuff for people?
Right.
That just, I don't get that. I don't buy that,
There's a lot of things I think you begin to question in maybe it's the same question in a different way through the different phases of your life.
Yeah.
You get to a certain point where you've seen enough, you've had enough, and you start to say, well, maybe there's a different thing going on here.
Yeah.
So all I can do at those points is think naturally that there's got to be a way to broaden what we're already, the abilities that we already have. And it's just a matter of time before that egg gets cracked open, you know.
Yeah.
And I keep saying a decade, you know, before we all have the implant and the wires sticking out.
Yeah.
And we're jacked in.
I'm glad I'm at the age I am, because let the young kids have that.
Well,
I'll fade off into
if you could,
glory with my
if you were
brain intact.
if you were terminally ill, and a doctor comes in and says, "All right, listen, you got like 3 months left. You don't want to believe me? That's fine. You want a second opinion? We'll get a second opinion." A second opinion comes in and says, "Yeah, about 3.5 months." Okay, so you got about 3.5 months.
Why? Yeah.
What
at
if
that
I
point,
could?
why
What if I
wouldn't you?
could? What if I could wire this thing in for you in a quick procedure? And during those 3.5 months, you're out in a meadow, you're playing with your dog, you're tapping into some great memories while you're laying here sleeping basically. And when it's time to go, you just get in the car or get in a plane or whatever you choose to do, and you go on a trip and you fall asleep, and that's it. You take the nap.
Hey, sign me up.
We're just going to charge your insurance $95,000,
Right.
and yeah, okay. I'm 98 years old. I've had a good run. Let's do it. Sign me up. Plug me in.
Yeah.
I guess at that point,
Yeah.
at that point, plugging in.
But if you're thinking, I don't know, if you got another 30, 40 years and you're still in the workforce, you're still kind of, it almost seems like
Yeah.
you'd have to, or you'd be left behind against
Yeah.
the people that adopt that technology early.
Yeah.
You'd be at a disadvantage.
You have those like when you don't know the specifics of a field, and you just get an opinion, right? Like, that guy don't know what the hell he's talking about, but in his chosen field, he sure does, right?
Mhm.
So like you say, okay, 40 years ago, if a doctor said, "I think you have a year to live," and you live 10 years, other people around that situation would say, "See, they're full of shit."
Right.
But like then you have your own personal experiences, right? So like when Aaron passed away, they told him he had a year to live, and I mean they were only off by a couple of months, and so there was deterioration there of his condition and everything, and it was like, okay, wow. So I was thinking of it on a few levels, like spiritual, emotional, physical. And then I was thinking of it on the level of maybe some of these guys do have, certain things figured out when they map out the genomes and the different cancers and all this different stuff. And he had a very rare,
Predictable type.
a very rare sickness. And they were like, after a certain amount of time, they were like, okay, here's where we're gauging it based on where you're at. And I'm still to this day blown away by the accuracy, because it was like April when he called me and said, "Listen, I just got this news. They said I got a year to live." I'm like, "Wow, how do you like of all these subjects and things, and we think about all these things and we spend our time, wondering about all these things, and then you in the middle of that you get that phone call like, well, that puts on the brakes. I guess we need to start a bucket list. Here we go, right?"
Yeah.
And that's what he did. And they said a year. So it was like April until August, like 2 days before his birthday or something like that. May, June, July. Oh, so 4 months. They're off by 4 months. Like, dude, if you look at a lifetime, the needle drop of 4 months
Right.
is like
Right.
the tip of a needle. Like,
You're gonna pinpoint
Like,
any
I'm gonna-
4-month period.
I'm going to
in your
drop the
life.
needle. I'm going to
Yeah.
drop the needle on 12 months. That's
Right.
under that needle
Sure.
tip, So I definitely think there's some advances there where they can at least tell you, the stuff we do don't work, but here's when it's going to happen. Like that. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, because I don't sit around and dwell on it a lot, but if you were that type of person, you were like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? I'm going to look up this app. I'm going to call the psychic network. I want to know when it's going to, I would worry less about when it's going to happen and worry about what's going on until that day, Um, and we have people in our lives who just wake up in the morning and have heart attacks, or we have people that go to bed at night and don't wake up. I mean, I just experienced both of those in the last not even 10 years. So the task at hand today was urban legends and lore and all this stuff, and then we end up on this type of stuff. But that's what's cool about it. Like, it gives everything a pause for thought, right? Diana of the Dunes is out there.
Yeah.
She's watching. There's other stuff.
Got to behave.
There's other stuff that's happening in our area. There's other stuff that's happening in everybody else's area. It just seems like when you start delving in, you're like, Jesus, is this the epicenter for all this? All these serial killers, all these Val Gunnis types, and I'm sure you could say that about a lot of places.
Yeah.
you know?
If you grew up in another hometown, you'd have all the local ones to you at that point. Yeah.
We haven't even talked about local hauntings and stuff. I mean,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So
Not yet. Another episode.
So we had a couple guys stick with us for a while, and we appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And we'll try to be back in another week or so or whatever, and give you advance notice. And appreciate the comments. We had a good drink recipe. We had what else did we have? Oh, a couple drink recipes. And then the thing about dreams being past lives.
Yeah.
35% of the brain's
Could be.
capability and stuff like that. Yeah, so cool. So thanks for interacting. Check us out. We'll have this posted on the YouTube channel. Definitely come back by and check it out if you missed it. We'll be posting it all over the place, and we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.
All right.
Later. Let's see if I can figure this out.